The message reached the Galactic Council on a Tuesday morning, though the aliens who received it had no concept of human weekdays. It was a simple transmission, audio only, spoken in perfectly translated galactic standard. This is Admiral Kang Minho of the Terran Deep Space Navy. Humanity formally requests membership in the Galactic Council. We await your response. Win. We await your response. In the grand chamber of the Council Station, 5 species sat in their designated sections. The Mantid Collective shifted their segmented bodies with irritation. The Krell Empire's representatives ruffled their brilliant feathers in what might have been laughter. The Fen Commonwealth's aquatic delegates floated in their pressurized tanks, silent and watchful. The other 2 powers barely acknowledged the message at all. High Coordinator Velmoth spoke first, his mandibles clicking. The data appeared on screens throughout the chamber. Earth. A single planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Population. 11 billion. Space presence. Minimal. Military capability. Unknown. They have nothing we need. War singer Thex announced, his vocal cords producing a sound like crystal bells. Their world is rich in water, but so are 10,000 others. They have discovered faster than light travel only recently. By our standards, they are infants. Elder Drin's voice bubbled through his tank speakers. Perhaps we should investigate further. Before making assumptions. Why waste resources? Velmoth clicked dismissively. Send them the standard response. If they wish to join, they must prove their worth. The response was drafted within the hour. It was polite, formal, and designed to discourage further contact. To join the Galactic Council, humanity would need to demonstrate technological advancement, cultural sophistication, and military capability. They were invited to send a delegation to the Vega sector in 6 months' time. There, they would be evaluated. Most species abandoned their applications at this stage. The requirements were intentionally vague and demanding. The Council expected humanity to do the same. Captain Han Jiwoo read the Council's message in her ready room aboard the Time's indomitable Asterisk. She was 47 years old, with gray starting to thread through her black hair. Her eyes were steady as she read each word twice, then a third time. They think we'll give up, she said quietly. Beside her, Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun nodded. He was older, his face lined with years of diplomatic service. The message is designed to intimidate. Most species would see it as a rejection. Most species aren't human. Han Jiwoo stood and walked to the viewport. Outside, Earth hung in the black, a blue marble wrapped in white clouds. Send our confirmation. Tell them we accept their invitation. The Times, Indomitable Times, was 3 kilometers long, a massive construction of titanium, carbon composites, and materials that had no name in any alien language. It had taken 200 years to build, with contributions from every nation on Earth. 17,000 people had worked on its construction. 400 crew members would sail it to the stars. Chief Engineer Park Suman was 28 and looked younger. She stood in the engine room, checking readings on screens that glowed with soft blue light. The reactor hummed beneath her feet, a sound like distant thunder that never stopped. All systems ready, Captain, she reported over the comm. We can launch whenever you give the word. In the weapons bay, Commander Cho Yuna inspected the arsenal with practiced eyes. She was a veteran of Earth's last war, the border conflict that had ended 15 years ago. She remembered cities burning and ships dying in orbit. She remembered why humanity had built the Times, Indomitable Times, the way they had. The weapons were not like anything the galaxy had seen before. Kinetic kill vehicles that could accelerate to near-light speed. Drone fighters that operated with artificial intelligence so advanced they could think tactically in microseconds. Point defense systems that created overlapping fields of destruction around the ship. And beneath it all, the manufacturing bays that could build more weapons during flight, turning raw materials into munitions. We're ready, Choyuna said simply. Lieutenant Im Hyri sat at her navigation console, plotting the route to the Vega sector. She was young, barely 25. but she had an instinct for spatial mathematics that bordered on supernatural. She could look at a star map and see patterns others missed. 6 months, she murmured, her fingers dancing across holographic controls. They expect us to arrive exhausted and desperate to impress them. Dr. Bajincio, the ship's xenobiologist, stood beside her. He was reviewing everything humanity knew about the 5 council species. It wasn't much. A few encounters, some intercepted communications. Basic, biological data. They know almost nothing about us either, he observed. That could be an advantage. The launch was quiet, without ceremony. Earth's governments had agreed. No grand speeches, no public celebration. The Times, indomitable Times, would speak for humanity through its actions, not words. As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Admiral Kang Minho watched from the command center in Seoul. He was 60 years old, a career military officer who had fought in 3 wars. He knew what the Times' indomitable Times represented. It wasn't just a ship, it was a statement. Safe journey, he said softly, though no one could hear him across the growing distance. Across the galaxy, the 5 council species barely noticed the human ship's departure. They were occupied with their own concerns. The Mantid Collective was negotiating trade agreements. The Krell Empire was preparing for their annual honor duels. The Fen Commonwealth was expanding into a new star cluster. War, as they understood it, was a ritualized affair. Fleets would meet at predetermined locations. They would maneuver according to established rules. Battles rarely lasted more than a few hours. Casualties were minimal. The loser would concede territory or resources, and life would continue. They had been at peace, more or less, for 3,000 years. Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge of the Times, indomitable Times, as Earth shrank behind them. Around her, the crew worked at their stations with quiet efficiency. These were people who understood what was at stake. Humanity had been alone in the universe for so long. Now they had a chance to join something larger, but they would join as equals, or not at all. "Take us to faster than light," Han Ji-woo ordered. The ship shuddered as the FTL drive engaged. Space twisted around them, and the stars blurred into streams of light. The journey to the Vega sector had begun. In her private quarters that night, Han Ji-woo reviewed the mission parameters one final time. She thought about her grandfather, who had fought in the Third World War. She thought about her mother, who had survived the Tokyo bombardment. She thought about every human who had ever looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Humanity had spent 10,000 years fighting itself. They had learned lessons written in blood and fire. They had built weapons that could crack continents and strategies that could topple empires. And then, finally, they had achieved peace. But they never forgot how to fight. The Times, indomitable Times, flew on through the dark, carrying with it the hopes of 11 billion people and the accumulated knowledge of humanity's entire violent history. The galaxy didn't know what was coming. In 6 months, it would learn. The Vega sector was neutral territory, claimed by no single species, but respected by all. It sat at the intersection of 5 different territories, a perfect meeting place for galactic diplomacy. Normally, it was empty, except for the automated monitoring stations that drifted through the void. Today, it was crowded. The Mantid Collective had sent 3 hive ships, each one 10 kilometers long, and bristling with organic weapons that pulsed with bioluminescence. They hung in space like sleeping predators, their crews of thousands moving through corridors that resembled the inside of a living creature. The Krell Empire's contribution was more elegant. 5 warships, shaped like enormous birds, their hulls polished to mirror brightness. Energy weapons lined their wings, and their engines left trails of golden particles that glowed in the darkness. The Fen Commonwealth arrived in vessels filled with water, great spheres of liquid held together by force fields. Inside, the aquatic beings swam through their ships, operating controls with tentacles that could manipulate matter at the molecular level. The other 2 council powers brought their own representatives. Dozens of ships in total, all gathered to witness humanity's evaluation. High Coordinator Velmoth stood in the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the assembled fleet with satisfaction. Quite the show of force, he clicked to his second-in-command. The humans will be terrified. Do you think they'll actually come? The subordinate asked. If they do, it will be entertaining to watch them realize how outmatched they are. War Singer Thex preened his feathers aboard his command ship. To him, this was an opportunity. If he could defeat the human vessel in ritual combat, his status would rise. Perhaps he might even challenge for a higher position in the Empire's hierarchy. They are primitives, he sang to his crew. This will be a quick victory. Prepare the standard engagement protocols. Only Elder Dren seemed troubled. He floated in his tank, ancient eyes watching the viewscreen with concern. Something felt wrong. He had reviewed the limited data on humanity. They had developed FTL travel remarkably quickly. Their radio transmissions suggested a complex, fractured society that had somehow unified. And they had sent only one ship. Why just one? The question bothered him, but he had no answer. 6 months after leaving Earth, the Times' indomitable Times dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vega sector. The bridge crew worked in calm silence, running diagnostics and checking systems. Everything was green. We're being scanned, Lieutenant Imhieri reported from her station. Let them look, Captain Han Jiwoo said calmly. She sat in her command chair, hands resting lightly on the armrests. Show them what we want them to see. The Times. Indomitable Times began its approach to the rendezvous coordinates. It moved steadily, not rushing, maintaining a course that suggested confidence rather than eagerness. In the alien fleet, the scans came back. 3 kilometers long, a mantid technician reported to Velmoth. Significantly smaller than our vessels. Power output is strange. I'm having difficulty getting clear readings. They're probably masking their signatures. Velmoth decided. A primitive attempt to seem more impressive than they are. What about weapons? Visible weapons ports appear minimal. I count perhaps 24. Velmoth's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. His ships had hundreds. As expected, they are no threat. Aboard the Krell flagship, Warsinger Thex received similar reports. Only 3 kilometers? Our smallest escort vessels are larger. This will be even easier than I thought, but Elder Drine's analysts were more thorough. The hull composition is unusual, one reported. We're detecting materials we don't recognize, and there are large bay doors along the sides. Their purpose is unclear. Art, manufacturing bays perhaps? Drin suggested. Or cargo holds? Possibly. But the power distribution is unusual. There are massive energy conduits running throughout the ship, far more than necessary for standard operations. Drin filed this information away. Something was not adding up. Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun prepared for first contact. He wore a simple suit, dark blue with minimal decoration. His expression was calm, friendly, but not submissive. He had spent decades learning to read alien body language, and he knew how to project exactly the right image. The communication came through on standard channels. Terran vessel. This is the Galactic Council. You are cleared to approach the designated coordinates. Prepare to be boarded for inspection. Han Jiwoo glanced at Yoon Dae-hyun, who shook his head slightly. Council representatives, the captain replied. We are happy to meet with you aboard our vessel, or yours. However, we do not permit boarding by unknown parties. We suggest a diplomatic meeting first. There was a pause. The council was not used to being refused. Very well, came the response, though the tone suggested irritation. Prepare to receive our delegation in 1 hour. After the channel closed, Commander Cho Yuna spoke quietly. Captain, I'm tracking weapons charging on 3 of the mantid vessels. They're trying to be subtle about it. Let me guess, Han Jiwoo said. They're planning a demonstration of their own. That would be my assessment. How long until they're ready to fire? At current charge rates, approximately 6 hours. Han Jiwoo nodded. Then we have time to be polite. But bring our systems to standby. Quietly. Throughout the ship, the crew moved to battle stations. But they did it without rushing, without visible alarm. They had trained for this. Every exercise, every simulation, had been designed around a single principle. Be ready for anything. Chief Engineer Park Soo-min brought the reactor to full capacity. The massive core hummed with power, generating enough energy to supply a small city. But the times, indomitable times, needed every watt. In the drone bays, artificial intelligence systems came online. Thousands of small fighters sat in their launch tubes, each one no larger than a car but packed with sensors, weapons, and decision-making capability. They waited for the command to deploy. The point defense grid activated across the hull. To anyone scanning from outside, it would look like the ship was running routine diagnostics. In reality, every weapon system was now live and tracking potential threats. Dr. Bae Jinseo stood in the medical bay, making sure everything was ready. He hoped it wouldn't be needed. But hope was not a strategy. The council's delegation arrived on schedule. They came in a small shuttle, unarmed, and flying diplomatic flags. Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun met them in the docking bay with full honors. There were 5 of them, one from each major species. They looked around the interior of the Times, indomitable Times, with barely concealed disdain. Quite Spartan. The manted representative clicked. We expected something more. Impressive. We believe in function over decoration. Yoon Dae-hyun replied smoothly. Please, follow me to the conference room. As they walked through the corridors, the aliens noted everything. The crew moved with military precision. The walls were bare metal, no ornamentation. Everything looked practical, efficient, almost harsh. How many crew? The Krell asked. 400. So few? Our smallest vessels carry thousands. We have found that quality matters more than quantity, Yoon Dae-hyun said with a smile. In the conference room, they sat around a table. The conversation was formal, following protocols that had been established thousands of years ago. The council representatives asked questions about Earth's technology, culture, and intentions. Yoon Dae-hyun answered honestly but vaguely. Yes, humans had developed FTL travel. Yes, they had unified under a single governing structure for space affairs. No, they had no territorial ambitions in this region of space. Then why seek council membership? Elder Drin asked. He was the only one who seemed genuinely curious rather than condescending. Because isolation serves no one. Yoon Dae-hyun replied. We believe we have much to learn from the galactic community. And perhaps something to offer in return. We, such as? That remains to be seen. The meeting lasted 2 hours. When it ended, the council delegation returned to their shuttle with mixed impressions. The humans seemed competent enough, but their ship was small, and their crew tiny. They would need to prove themselves worthy of membership. Back in his tank, Elder Drin reviewed the meeting. Something still bothered him. The human ambassador had been too calm, too confident, and when asked about military capabilities, he had simply smiled and said, adequate for our needs. What did that mean? Aboard the Times, Indomitable Asterisk, Captain Han Ji-woo called a briefing. The manted weapons are at 90% charge, Cho Yuna reported. 2 Krell ships are also powering up their systems. They're being less subtle now. How long? They could fire within the hour. Recommendations? We strike first, hard, and fast. Han Ji-woo shook her head. Let them make the first move. But be ready to respond immediately. Understood. She looked around at her senior staff. Remember, we're not here to start a war. We're here to make a point. The galaxy has forgotten what real warfare looks like. It's time to remind them. Outside, the alien fleets continued their preparations, confident in their superiority. They had no idea what was coming. The formal evaluation began at dawn, though there was no sun in the Vega sector to mark the time. It was simply the appointed hour. Agreed upon by all parties. Captain Han Ji-woo stood on the bridge, watching as the alien ships arranged themselves in formation. 3 manted hive ships took positions to port, starboard, and above the Time's indomitable asterisk. 2 Krell warships flanked them. The Fen vessels hung back, observers rather than participants. They're claiming this is standard protocol, Lieutenant Im Hyeri said quietly, surrounding the evaluated vessel to observe performance under pressure. It's an ambush, Commander Cho Yuna stated flatly. They want to see how we react when threatened. Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun had protested through official channels, but the Council's response had been dismissive. This was how evaluations were conducted. If humanity wished to join the galactic community, they would need to accept established procedures. Han Ji-woo had agreed, but on her terms. All crew to battle stations, she ordered. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. But keep weapons cold. Let's see what they do. The alien vessels moved closer, their formation tightening like a noose. On the observation platforms scattered throughout the sector, representatives from dozens of species watched with interest. Many had brought recording equipment. This would be entertaining. High Coordinator Velmoth sat in his command throne, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. Begin the demonstration. Power up, weapons. Let's see how the primitives react. Across his 3 ships, weapon systems came online. Energy built in organic capacitors. Targeting systems locked onto the human vessel. Aboard the Time's indomitable asterisk, alarms chimed softly. They're locking weapons on us, Im Hyeri reported. All 3 manted ships. The Krell vessels are charging their energy arrays as well. Time to firing readiness? Han Ji-woo asked. 90 seconds. The captain nodded slowly. She opened a channel to the Council frequency. This is Captain Han Ji-woo. We detect weapons charging. Please explain your intentions, War Singer Thex replied, his crystalline voice echoing across the void. This is a standard evaluation procedure. We must test your defensive capabilities. Please prepare to demonstrate your shields and evasive maneuvers. Han Ji-woo closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were hard as steel. Chief Park, she said quietly, bring the reactor to maximum output. Yes, Captain. Deep in the engine room, Park Soo-min's hands moved across her controls. The reactor's hum rose to a roar. Power flooded through every system. Commander Cho, deploy the network. Cho Yuna smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. With pleasure, Captain. Along the sides of the Time's indomitable asterisk, the bay doors opened. The aliens' first indication that something was wrong came from their sensors. The human ship's power signature suddenly spiked, climbing from moderate levels to readings that seemed impossible for a vessel that size. Then the bay doors opened, and thousands of small objects poured out. What is that? Velmoth demanded. His technicians stared at the displays in confusion. Drones. Thousands of them. They're deploying in a spherical formation around the ship. The drones spread out like a cloud, each one taking position in a carefully calculated pattern. Within seconds, they formed a web of overlapping fields of fire that surrounded the Time's indomitable Times completely. They have no pilots, the technician reported, voice rising in alarm. They're operating autonomously. And they're armed. Captain, they're all armed. Velmoth's confidence wavered. How many? Still counting. At least 5,000. No. 7,000. They're still launching. On the Krell flagship, War Singer Thex watched the display with growing concern. What kind of ship carries 7,000 fighters? One designed for war, his tactical officer replied quietly. The drone deployment took exactly 43 seconds. When it was complete, the Times, indomitable Times, sat at the center of a sphere of autonomous weapons, each one capable of independent action and coordinated tactics. And then the point defense systems came online. Across the human ship's hull, Hundreds of small turrets emerged from concealed positions. They began tracking targets, moving in precise arcs, creating overlapping fields that covered every possible angle of approach. "Captain," Cho-Yuna said, "the network is active. We have full defensive coverage." Han Ji-woo opened the channel again. "Council representatives, your weapons are still charging. We consider this a hostile act. Stand down immediately, or we will interpret this as an attack." There was a moment of silence. Then Velmoth's voice came back, still arrogant, but with an edge of uncertainty. "You are in no position to make demands. You are outnumbered and outgunned. This is merely a test of your— You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons," Han Ji-woo interrupted. "Or we will show you what a warship is. You dare threaten the council?" War Singer Thex's voice was sharp with anger. "You are surrounded by the finest vessels in the galaxy. One small ship against 5 of ours. You cannot hope to." 20 seconds, Han Ji-woo said calmly. In the alien command centers, confusion reigned. This was not how evaluations went. The humans were supposed to be intimidated, desperate to prove themselves worthy. They were not supposed to issue ultimatums. "Should we actually fire?" Velmoth asked his tactical officer. "The protocols state that we fire warning shots to test their shields. Low power, no real damage intended. Then proceed." 15 seconds. Han Ji-woo counted down. Dr. Bae Jinseo stood in the medical bay, his hands gripping the edge of a table. He had studied alien psychology for years, but he had never expected it to come to this. Around him, medical staff waited nervously. 10 seconds. Chief Engineer Park Soo-min watched her displays as power consumption climbed to maximum levels. The Times, Indomitable Times, was designed to operate at this level. But it had never been tested in actual combat. She whispered a quiet prayer. 5 seconds. The manted ships fired first. 3 concentrated beams of organic energy lanced toward the Times' Indomitable Asterisk, designed to impact the shields and test their strength. They never reached the ship. The point defense grid opened fire, filling space with streams of projectiles moving at supersonic speeds. The alien weapons were intercepted and dissipated before they got within a kilometer of the hull. Simultaneously, 200 drones broke formation and accelerated toward the manted vessels, moving at speeds that seemed impossible for their size. "Evasive action," Velmoth screamed, but it was too late. The drones didn't carry explosives. They didn't need to. Each one was a solid mass of dense metal, and they were moving at a significant fraction of light speed. When they impacted the manted shields, the energy release was devastating. 2 of the hive ship's shields collapsed instantly. The third held, but barely. And then the Times, Indomitable Times, fired its main weapons. They were not energy beams or missiles. They were solid projectiles. Cylinders of tungsten and ceramic accelerated by magnetic rails to 0.8 light speed. Kinetic kill vehicles, humanity called them. The first salvo consisted of 6 projectiles. 2 targeted each manted vessel. The weapons crossed the distance in fractions of a second. When they hit with the force of nuclear weapons. The manted ship to port simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a 10-kilometer biological construct housing thousands of beings. The next moment, it was an expanding cloud of debris and atmosphere. The ship to starboard lasted slightly longer. Its shields absorbed the first impact, but the second punched through and carved a hole 300 meters wide through its entire length. It began to tumble, atmosphere venting, power failing. The third ship, above the Times' Indomitable Asterisk, tried to flee. Its engines flared as it attempted to break away. "Commander," Captain Han Ji-woo said quietly. "Do we have a firing solution?" Cho-Yuna checked her displays. "Yes, Captain. Clean shot. Hold fire." The bridge crew looked at her in surprise. "They're running," Han Ji-woo explained. "We've made our point. Let them go." The surviving manted vessel accelerated away, abandoning the battlefield. The Krell ships, which had been preparing to fire, immediately powered down their weapons and backed away, their formation breaking in panic. Across the Vega sector, on every observation platform and every ship, absolute silence reigned. It had taken less than 10 seconds. 2 ships destroyed, a third fleeing, and the Times, indomitable Times, sat unchanged, surrounded by its cloud of drones, weapons still ready. Lieutenant Hayeri spoke softly. "Captain, we're receiving hundreds of communication requests. The Council wants to talk. So does everyone else." Han Jiwoo sat back in her chair. Her hands were steady. "Recall the drones. Power down to standby. Then, open a channel to the Council." When the channel opened, her voice carried across every frequency, heard by every species watching. "This is Captain Han Jiwoo of the Terran vessel Times Indomitable Asterisk. You asked for a demonstration of our capabilities. You have now seen them. If you wish to discuss humanity's membership in the Council, we are ready to talk. If you wish to continue hostilities, we are ready for that too." She paused, letting the words sink in. "The choice is yours." Then she closed the channel and waited. The galaxy had just learned a lesson it would never forget. The emergency council session began 3 hours after the battle. In those 3 hours, the galaxy had watched the recordings 1,000 times. Every species with access to communication networks saw the same footage. 1 human ship, 2 alien vessels destroyed in seconds, a third fleeing in terror. The questions came fast and desperate. How? Elder Drin floated in his tank at the council table, looking at the other representatives with something that might have been pity. Warsinger Thex was silent for once, his feathers dull with shock. High Coordinator Velmoth had not come personally, sending a junior representative instead. The other 2 species delegates spoke in hushed tones. "We must understand what happened," Drin said finally. "Before we make any decisions, we need answers. They attacked us." The Mantid representative clicked frantically. "Without provocation. This is an act of war." "Your ships powered weapons first," Drine replied calmly. "Our own sensors confirm this. You initiated the hostile action. It was a standard evaluation." "They knew the protocols. Did they?" Drine's voice was quiet. "Or did we assume they would accept our methods without question?" Warsinger Thex finally spoke, his voice subdued. "It doesn't matter who fired first. What matters is what they did. 1 ship, 1 small ship destroyed 2 of our largest vessels in 10 seconds. How is that possible?" "That," Drin said, "is exactly what we need to ask them." Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun received the Council's invitation to speak with professional courtesy but no warmth. He had watched friends die in Earth's wars. He had seen cities burn. He knew what humanity was capable of, and he knew that the galaxy had just gotten its first real glimpse. He entered the council chamber alone, wearing the same simple suit he had worn before. The assembled representatives stared at him with fear, anger, and confusion. "Ambassador Yoon," Elder Drin began, "the council has questions. I am here to answer them," Yoon replied. "How did 1 ship accomplish what we witnessed?" Yoon was quiet for a moment, considering his words carefully. "You asked the wrong questions," he said finally. "When you evaluated us, you asked about our ship's size, its crew complement, its visible weapons, but you never asked the important question, which was," Drain prompted, "what does war mean to humanity?" The chamber fell silent. Yoon continued, his voice steady and calm. "For you, war is a ritual. You meet at predetermined locations. You fight according to established rules. Casualties are minimized, conflicts are resolved quickly, and life continues. Your wars are almost ceremonial." "And for humanity?" Thex asked, though his tone suggested he feared the answer. "For humanity, war is extinction." Yoon's eyes were hard. "We have fought wars that killed billions. We have developed weapons that can sterilize continents. We have come within hours of making our entire planet uninhabitable." He activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the air above the council table. This was Tokyo in 2087, he said. The image showed a city in ruins. Buildings collapsed, fires burning everywhere. 3 million dead in one day. This was the Amazon basin in 2104. Another image, this time of a barren wasteland, where rainforest should have been. Biological weapons turned it into a dead zone that still hasn't recovered. More images followed. Cities destroyed, oceans poisoned, skies darkened with ash from burning forests. The council members watched in growing horror. For 10,000 years, we fought ourselves, Yoon said quietly. We developed increasingly terrible ways to kill each other. We learned every lesson about warfare, the hard way. And then, finally, we achieved peace. But we never forgot what we learned. Why show us this? The Mantid representative clicked weakly. Because you need to understand. When we built the Time's indomitable asterisk, we didn't build a ship for ritual combat. We built it to fight an entire fleet. Because that's the only kind of war we know. Elder Drin spoke carefully. You said you achieved peace. How? By making war so terrible that no one wanted it anymore, Yoon replied. We call it mutually assured destruction. If anyone attacks, everyone dies. So, no one attacks. That seems unstable, Dren observed. It is. Which is why we prepare for every possible threat. The Times. Indomitable Times has been in development for 200 years. Every system on that ship incorporates lessons from our entire history of warfare. The drone network, the point defense, the kinetic weapons. All of it comes from a simple philosophy, which is, if you build one ship, build it to win. Warsinger Thex had been listening with growing unease. Your ship carries weapons that can destroy cities. Drones that operate without pilots. Defenses that can intercept anything we fire. What else does it have? Yoon smiled slightly. Would you like me to tell you? Or would you prefer to maintain some uncertainty? The message was clear. What they had seen was not humanity's full capability. It was just what they had chosen to reveal. This is insane, the Mantid representative clicked. You're telling us that your entire species is built for total warfare? That every human ship will be like this? No, Yoon said. The Times, Indomitable Times, is our first deep space vessel. Our next ones will be better. Better? Thex's voice rose. We learn from every engagement. Every battle teaches us something new. We'll incorporate those lessons into our next designs. Elder Drin floated forward in his tank. Ambassador, let me be direct. Your species terrifies us. You have capabilities far beyond what we expected. Why do you want to join the council? Because isolation serves no one, Yoon replied. We could stay in our corner of space, building our ships and preparing for threats that may never come. Or we can join the galactic community, share our knowledge, and learn from yours. Share your knowledge of warfare. The Mantid representative clicked in horror. If necessary. Yoon's expression was serious now. Elder Drin asked how we achieved peace. The answer is that we all learned to fight so well that fighting became pointless. Maybe the galaxy needs to learn that lesson too. The council members exchanged glances. This was not what they had expected. They had thought to evaluate a primitive species, to either accept them as junior members or dismiss them entirely. Instead, they faced a species that could potentially defeat all of them combined. We need time to discuss this, Drin said finally. Of course, Yoon replied. We'll wait. After the ambassador left, the council chamber erupted in argument. Some species wanted to reject humanity immediately, to quarantine them in their own space. Others suggested a preemptive strike, destroying Earth before humanity could build more ships. Elder Drin listened to it all with growing sadness. Then he spoke, and his voice cut through the chaos. We cannot defeat them, he said simply. You don't know that, Thex protested. Yes, I do. And so do you, if you think about it. Drine gestured to the displays showing the battle footage. They destroyed 2 ships in 10 seconds. With minimal effort. They didn't even use their full capabilities. And that's 1 ship. Then, what do we do? The Mantid representative asked desperately. We accept reality. Humanity is powerful, more powerful than us. We can either make them our enemies or our allies. They'll dominate us, perhaps, or perhaps we learn from them as they wish to learn from us. The debate continued for hours. But slowly, reluctantly, the council began to see the truth. The galaxy had existed in comfortable stagnation for millennia. They had grown soft, fighting ritualized wars that meant nothing. And now they faced a species that had earned its strength through suffering and survival. Aboard the Times, Indomitable Asterisk, Captain Han Ji-woo reviewed damage reports. There was none. The ship had performed perfectly. 0 casualties, 0 malfunctions. Captain, Lieutenant Im Hyeri said quietly, I'm monitoring council communications. They're terrified of us. Good, Han Ji-woo replied. Fear brings respect. Respect brings negotiation. Nose. Do you think they'll accept us? They don't have much choice. We're here, and we're not leaving. Chief Engineer Park Soo-min appeared on the bridge, looking exhausted but satisfied. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Han Ji-woo said. But keep everything ready. Dr. Bae-jin Seo joined them, carrying data pads. I've been analyzing the alien responses. Most species are in shock, but some are curious. They want to know more about us. That's a start, Han Ji-woo said. Commander Cho Yuna stood at her weapons station, watching the surrounding space. Captain, we still have 5 alien battle groups in the area. If they decide to attack together, then we fight, Han Ji-woo said simply. And we win, because that's what humans do. The galaxy was learning, but humanity had one more lesson to teach. The vote took place 17 days after the battle. 17 days of arguments, debates, and frantic diplomatic communications. 17 days during which the Times, Indomitable Times, sat quietly in the Vega sector, weapons cold but ready, waiting for the galaxy to make its decision. Captain Han Ji-woo spent those days reading. She had brought physical books with her, paper volumes that she treasured, military history mostly, Sun Tzu, Clausewitz, and dozens of others. She found comfort in their words, reminders that humanity's struggle was not new, only the stage on which it played out. The council chamber was full when the vote was called. Not just the 5 major species, but representatives from dozens of minor ones. All had heard about the human ship. All had seen the recordings. All had opinions. Elder Drin spoke first. We are here to vote on humanity's application for council membership. But before we vote, I wish to propose an amendment to the standard membership terms. This caused a stir. The terms had been the same for thousands of years. What amendment? War Singer. Thex asked, warily. Humanity has demonstrated military capability far beyond our initial assessment. I propose we offer them full membership, not provisional status. In exchange, they will share their defensive knowledge with the council. The Mantid representative clicked in alarm. You want to give them full membership? After they destroyed our ships? Your ships attacked first. Drine reminded him gently. And yes, I want to offer full membership, because the alternative is having them as enemies. Do you really want that? Silence answered him. Furthermore, Drin continued, I have received concerning reports from our border regions. Several colonies have gone dark. We don't know why. Initial investigations suggest an unknown threat. What kind of threat? Thex asked. Unknown. That's the point. But whatever it is, it has destroyed 3 colonies in the past month. We may need humanity's expertise in warfare sooner than we think. The vote was called. 3 species voted yes. 1 voted no. The 5th abstained. The measure passed. Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun received the news in his quarters aboard the Times' indomitable asterisk. He read the message 3 times, making sure he understood every word. Then he smiled. Full membership. No restrictions. No probationary period. Humanity had a seat at the table, but the message continued. There was a condition. Humanity would help defend Council space against the unknown threat. And they would share their knowledge. Yoon opened a communication channel to Earth. Admiral Kang Minho appeared on the screen, looking tired but alert. Ambassador, the Admiral said. I've been watching the news feeds. The galaxy seems rather shocked. They're learning. Yoon replied. We've been offered full membership. But there's a price. They want our help with a security situation. Details? Yoon summarized what he knew. Missing colonies. Unknown attackers. No survivors. Kang Minho was quiet for a moment. So they want us to fight their war for them. Not exactly. They want us to teach them how to fight. There's a difference. Is there? The Admiral sighed. Very well. We knew this might happen. Accept their terms. But make it clear that we're partners, not mercenaries. Understood, Admiral. And Yoon? Be careful. Once we teach them how to wage real war, we can't unteach it. The galaxy will change. It already has, Yoon said quietly. The moment the Times, indomitable Times, opened fire, everything changed. The formal acceptance ceremony took place 3 days later. Captain Han Ji-woo attended, wearing her dress uniform for the first time during the mission. She stood before the council with Ambassador Yoon Dae-hyun at her side. Elder Drin spoke the traditional words of welcome, accepting humanity into the galactic community. Then he added something unprecedented. Captain Han Ji-woo, the council requests that you take command of our defensive operations against the unknown threat. Will you accept? Han Ji-woo considered carefully. This was a test, she knew. They wanted to see if humanity would help, or if they would simply take their membership and leave. I accept, she said. On one condition. I need full access to your military assets, intelligence, and tactical data. And when I give orders in combat, they will be followed without question. That is, highly irregular. The Mantid representative clicked. That is the price of my expertise, Han Ji-woo replied calmly. I am willing to help, but I will not send people to die because someone wanted to debate tactics in the middle of a battle. Drin nodded slowly. Agreed. You will have full operational authority. Within a week, everything changed. Han Ji-woo established a command center aboard a council station. She brought her senior staff. Commander Cho Yuna, to handle weapons and tactics, Lieutenant Im Hyeri, for strategic planning, and Chief Engineer Park Soo-min, to evaluate alien ship capabilities. Dr. Bae-jin Seo stayed aboard the Times' indomitable asterisk, but he began cultural exchange programs. Alien scientists came to learn about human technology. Human researchers studied alien biology and physics. Knowledge flowed both ways. The first briefing was eye-opening for both sides. Han Ji-woo stood before a room full of alien military commanders. She activated a display showing the missing colonies. Your problem, she said bluntly, is that you don't know how to gather intelligence. You've been fighting ritual wars for so long that you've forgotten basic reconnaissance. War singer Thex bristled. We have sensor networks throughout our territory, which tell you nothing useful. You're monitoring for known threats. But this is an unknown threat. You need to think differently. She highlighted several systems near the missing colonies. We're going to send stealth probes to these locations. Small, quiet, hard to detect. They'll gather data without revealing themselves. We don't have stealth probes, a Fen commander bubbled. We do, Han Ji-woo said. We'll share the technology. But you need to understand the principle. In real warfare, information is more valuable than weapons. You need to know your enemy before you can defeat them. The training began. Human instructors worked with alien crews. teaching them concepts that seemed obvious to humanity, but were revolutionary to the galaxy. Cover and concealment. Misdirection. Asymmetric warfare. The element of surprise. Chief Engineer Park Sumin spent long hours with alien engineers, showing them how to build redundant systems, how to design for damage control, how to keep fighting even when wounded. Your ships are too fragile, she explained to a group of Krell technicians. One hit to the power core, and they're dead. You need backup systems, compartmentalization, redundancy. But that adds weight and complexity, they protested. It also keeps you alive, she replied simply. Commander Cho Yuna ran combat simulations with alien tactical officers. The results were humbling for the aliens. You fight in formations, she observed. Pretty formations that look impressive, but serve no tactical purpose. You need to spread out, use the environment, create crossfire. But our doctrine requires, your doctrine will get you killed. Forget what you think you know. Lieutenant Im Hyeri established an intelligence network, pulling together data from across Council space. She found patterns the aliens had missed. Connections they hadn't seen. The attacks aren't random, she reported to Han Jiwoo. They're targeting colonies with specific resources. Rare metals, mostly. Whatever this threat is, it's gathering materials. For what? Building something. That's my guess. The stealth probes were deployed. 6 weeks after the vote, they sent back their first data. The enemy was not what anyone expected. They were machines. Automated ships with no biological crew. They moved in swarms, stripping resources from planets and moons with terrifying efficiency. And they were building more of themselves. It's a von Neumann scenario, Dr. Beijinseo said, examining the data with growing concern. Self-replicating machines, possibly left over from some ancient conflict. Can we stop them? Elder Drine asked. Han Jiwoo studied the tactical data. Yes, but not with your current methods. These machines don't negotiate. They don't follow rules. They just consume and replicate. What do we need? A fleet. A real fleet. Designed for war, not ceremony. And you need it soon. Because if we don't stop them now, in a year, there will be 10 times as many. In 2 years, 100 times. The galaxy mobilized. For the first time in millennia, the Council species began building warships according to human specifications. Smaller, faster, more lethal. Ships designed to work together as a coordinated fleet rather than individual showpieces. Shipyards that had been idle for centuries roared back to life. Engineers who had never designed for combat learned from their human counterparts. And in Earth's orbital facilities, construction began on humanity's second deep space vessel. This one would be larger, incorporating lessons from the time's indomitable Asterisk's first engagement. And it would not be alone. Plans were already drawn for 10 more. 6 months after joining the Council, humanity led its first joint operation against the machine threat. 20 ships, including the time's indomitable Asterisk, with mixed crews of humans and aliens working together. Captain Han Jiwoo stood on the bridge, now promoted to Commodore. Around her, the crew worked with practiced efficiency. At the weapons station, a young Fen officer operated the controls under Cho Yuna's watchful eye. All ships report ready, Im Hyeri said from navigation. She had a Krell assistant now, a former warrior who had proven quick to learn. Then let's show them how it's done, Han Jiwoo said quietly. All ships. Execute Battle Plan Delta. Time to hunt. The fleet moved out. Not in a parade formation, but spread across space in a tactical web. The machines didn't know what hit them. Human tactics, alien ships, combined force. The battle was brief and decisive. The machine swarm was destroyed with minimal losses. As the fleet regrouped, Han Jiwoo received a communication from Elder Drin. Commodore, that was. Impressive. We've never fought like that before. You'll get better with practice, she replied. But remember what Admiral Kang told you. Once you learn to fight like this, you can't forget it. The galaxy has changed. I know, Drin said quietly. But perhaps it needed to change. We were stagnant, comfortable. You reminded us that the universe is dangerous. We didn't come here to change you, Han Ji-woo said. We came to join you. But yes, change was inevitable. She looked out at the fleet, human and alien ships working together. In the distance, construction drones were already harvesting materials from the destroyed machines, turning them into resources for more defenses. The galaxy had forgotten how to survive. Humanity had reminded them, and together, they would face whatever came next. In her quarters that night, Han Ji-woo opened her final log entry. Mission accomplished. Humanity has joined the galactic community. But we didn't just join. We changed it. For better or worse. The galaxy now remembers what war really means. I hope we've taught them well enough that they never have to use these lessons against each other. But if that day comes, at least they'll be ready. She closed the log and looked out the viewport. Earth was invisible from here, too far away to see. But she knew it was there, still spinning, still home. The Times, indomitable Times, had proven its worth. One ship, one crew, one chance to show the galaxy what humanity could do. They had done more than anyone expected. They had made the galaxy remember how to breathe.